The sun cast long shadows across the manicured lawns of our neighborhood, each blade of grass standing at attention like soldiers awaiting inspection. It was a picturesque subdivision, the kind gracing the glossy pages of a real estate magazine. Serenity Lane, as it was aptly named, had always lived up to its title, a harmonious sanctuary nestled against the backdrop of the distant mountains. But harmony, as I had come to learn, was as fragile as the morning dew. Karen. Her name swept through the neighborhood like a chill wind, rustling the leaves of our communal peace. She was the sort of person who saw life through a lens of regulations, each unwritten rule a thread in the tapestry of her control. It started small, as most things do. The first sign of her influence was the notice about fences, painted anything other than white. They were deemed a blight against the community aesthetic. White, she had declared, symbolized purity, an unblemished unity, even if it did strip each yard of personality. I remember the day the grilling ban was passed. The HOA meeting, usually a backdrop of murmurs and polite nods, had been different. Karen's voice emerged from the crowd, sharp as the crackle of a lit match. Her proposal to eliminate all outdoor grilling was met with silence, the kind that follows an unexpected clap of thunder. She cited fire hazards, the potential for unsightly smoke. Underneath it all, I sensed a deeper motive, an unspoken desire to extinguish the flames of community togetherness. Grilling was more than a culinary pursuit. It was a ritual around which neighbors gathered, an alchemy that turned strangers into friends. After the motion passed, I found myself on my porch, the scent of charcoals a ghost on the wind. The grill, once a centerpiece of summer evenings, now stood like a forgotten relic. I watched as the neighborhood adjusted to this new normal, the sounds of laughter and clinking glasses replaced by the muted hum of air conditioners. My heart ached for those lazy, sun-drenched afternoons, for the symphony of sizzling meats and vegetables that had once danced through the air. Karen's grip tightened with each ruling, each petty decree. Yet, I remained passive, a leaf adrift in the currents of her authority. There was a power in patience, in the ability to observe the world unfold without disrupting its rhythm. I was content to wait, to watch, to gather my thoughts like clouds before a storm. One evening, I stood on my lawn, the twilight painting the sky in hues of lavender and gold. The air was thick with the promise of rain, a cleansing torrent that would wash away the remnants of the day. As I surveyed my surroundings, an idea took root within me, sprouting from the fertile soil of quiet rebellion. I would host a BBQ, not just any BBQ, but a gathering on the HOA's own front lawn, a celebration of community defiance, a chance to reclaim what was lost, not through anger or confrontation, but through the simple joy of breaking bread together. And so, I began to plan, to prepare for the day when the scent of grilling would once again weave its spell, a fragrant rebellion against the uniformity that sought to smother our spirits. In the stillness of that evening, I found solace. I was not simply reacting to Karen's machinations. I was crafting a response, weaving it with intention and resolve. The neighborhood, my home, deserved nothing less than the camaraderie it once knew. And so, with a heart full of quiet determination, I set the wheels of my plan in motion. The sun dipped below the horizon like a coin into a slot, casting long shadows across the manicured lawns of our neighborhood. The scent of charcoal and sizzling meat still lingered in the air, a lingering testament to the chaotic harmony we'd temporarily forged on the HOA's sacred ground. But the peace was as ephemeral as the smoke. Karen was not one to let sleeping dogs lie. She thrived on control, a puppeteer tugging at the strings of our lives with her absurd rules and petty grievances. The morning after our barbecue rebellion, she was back at her post, resolved to tighten her grip. The HOA bulletin board, a usually benign fixture, had transformed overnight into a tapestry of new edicts, each more arbitrary than the last. A ban on flamingo lawn ornaments, despite no one owning a single one. A restriction on garden hose colors, a baffling decree on acceptable shades of mulch. Each announcement was a stone in the wall Karen was building between herself and the rest of us. I imagined her poring over the HOA bylaws late into the night, deriving a perverse satisfaction from each new way to exert power. The citations came next, like a plague of bureaucratic locusts. My mailbox seemed to vomit them onto my doorstep daily. A warning for my grass being a quarter-inch too long. Another for the wind chimes that dared to jingle like a soft melody on a breezy afternoon. Petty infractions, fabricated or exaggerated, each accompanied by a fine. A reminder of the fine print we had all unwittingly signed into. I navigated these waters with the quiet resilience of a seasoned sailor. The real battle was in the whispers that followed, the gossip that spread like wildfire through the grapevine of close-knit suburban life. Karen was a master of subterfuge, planting seeds of doubt and discord with the precision of a seasoned gardener. Neighbors who had laughed and shared toasts on the HOA lawn now eyed each other with suspicion, unsure of who might be next on Karen's list. It was a dance of shadows and light, a game of chess played on a board we couldn't quite see. Each move Karen made was met with a subtle countermove, a gentle reminder that not all paths were hers to dictate. Her attempts to isolate me, to paint me as the villain in this quiet war of attrition, only strengthened the resolve of those who saw through her machinations. The irony was palpable. In her quest for control, Karen had unwittingly united us in defiance. Our silent solidarity grew in the spaces between her rules and citations, in the shared glances and knowing nods exchanged over hedges and fences. We were a community not of her design, but of our own making. It was a battle fought not with words, but with actions, with a quiet defiance that spoke louder than any decree. And as the days passed and the sun rose and set, painting the sky in shades of defiance and hope, I knew that the real victory lay not in the lawn where we had once gathered, but in the spirit of a neighborhood unwilling to bow to the whims of one. The sun hung low in the sky, a molten orb casting long shadows across the neighborhood, its golden light painting the scene with an ethereal glow. The HOA's front lawn, usually a patch of manicured, pristine green, was now a tapestry of mismatched picnic blankets, folding chairs, and an assortment of grills exhaling lazy tendrils of smoke into the evening air. The aroma of sizzling burgers and marinated ribs drifted like a quiet rebellion through the cul-de-sac. A symphony of clinks and chatter rose like a crescendo, challenging the oppressive silence Karen had tried to impose with her vote. Neighbors arrived slowly at first, their curiosity piqued by the sight and scent of the impromptu gathering. I could see them from my vantage point by the central grill, their faces a blend of surprise and delight tinged with a hint of defiance. They came, carrying side dishes and lawn games, their children scampering like playful shadows. The evening air throbbed with a sense of community, a unity forged through shared indignation and the intoxicating promise of rebellion. Karen's house loomed at the periphery, a silent sentinel watching over her crumbling empire. Her windows were dark, blinds drawn like the shuttered eyes of a disapproving matron. I imagined her inside, the flicker of television light casting ominous shadows across her face as she stewed in her self-imposed isolation. The irony was delicious, more so than the perfectly seasoned steak sizzling on the grill. She, who had sought to stamp out every flicker of individuality with her gavel and bylaws, was now the one isolated, her kingdom overrun by laughter and camaraderie. Around me, conversations ebbed and flowed, words a soothing balm to the wounds of pettiness that had festered too long. I listened, half attentive, as stories were exchanged. Tales of glories past and grievances aired like old laundry. It was cathartic, this unburdening. A cleansing flame, licking at the edges of our shared history, leaving behind only warmth and light. I turned the steaks, their seared surfaces hissing in protest. A moment's distraction, and I caught her silhouette at the window, a specter framed in stark relief against the dim interior. It was just a flicker, but in that instant, I could sense the storm brewing within her, a tempest of indignation threatening to break free. The night deepened. stars emerging one by one, timid at first, then bold, twinkling defiantly against the encroaching darkness. The lawn was alive with movement and energy, a living testament to resistance. Children's laughter rang out, pure and untempered, a melody woven into the fabric of the night. As the evening wore on, the tension I had anticipated began to flicker at the edges of our gathering. A ripple, subtle at first, made its way through the crowd. I felt it as much as saw it. A shift in the air, an undercurrent of expectation and unease. Attention drifted toward the house, eyes lingering on the darkened window where Karen's silhouette had once stood. Whispers rose, speculation and curiosity entwined in a dance as old as time. We were on the precipice, teetering between peace and conflict. I watched, waiting for the inevitable, the moment when the dam would break and Karen's fury would spill forth into the night. The stage was set, the players in position. The only question that remained was how and when she would make her entrance. The anticipation was palpable, a tangible thread woven into the tapestry of our gathering. It hung in the air, electric, charged with the promise of drama yet to unfold. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the manicured lawns, I stood at the heart of the neighborhood, right on the HOA's front lawn. The charcoal's scent mingled with the crisp evening air, intertwining with the faint hum of cicadas. A symphony of defiance playing in the backdrop of suburbia. Karen had underestimated us. She had thought herself a conqueror, wielding the HOA rulebook like a tyrant with a scepter. But there we were, spatulas in hand, a chorus of neighbors laughing and clinking glasses, united by the simple joy of a barbecue. It was more than rebellion. It was reclamation. The grill smoke curled upwards, an ephemeral flag of our newfound unity. The sizzle of meat punctuated the evening, each sound a note in our triumphal march. Children darted between adults, their laughter unrestrained, crickets in a meadow of hope. Karen watched from her porch, a silhouette framed by fading daylight. Her usual army, the clipboard, the pen, the glare, remained at her side, impotent against the tide of camaraderie she had unwittingly unleashed. She was the queen of a castle built on sand, and the tide was rising. Her eyes, sharp as broken glass, tracked my every movement. I felt them bore into my back as I flipped burgers and passed plates, her stare a futile dagger against the armor of community. The irony was sweet, like the tang of barbecue sauce lingering on the tongue. Amidst the laughter, a quiet realization settled in. Karen wasn't the enemy, not really. She was the storm's cloud, gray and brooding, but no longer the storm itself. That power had dissolved, absorbed into the fabric of a community she'd tried to unravel. As the first stars pierced the twilight, I felt a tap on my shoulder. Turning, I met the eyes of an old neighbor, one who had kept to the sidelines, a spectator in Karen's reign. He nodded, a silent acknowledgement of the change in the wind. His gratitude was as palpable as the warmth from the grill, a testament to the bond forged in the crucible of collective defiance. The night wore on, the air filled with stories and shared memories, the past grievances forgotten like ash carried away on a breeze. I caught sight of Karen again, her posture less rigid, the clipboard now resting on her lap. For a moment, I wondered if she felt the shift, if she finally understood the strength of community was built on more than rules and restrictions. The embers glowed, a final testament to our evening's success. As the crowd began to disperse, I lingered, watching the smoke dissipate into the night sky. Karen's porch light flickered off, leaving her in shadow, a fitting end to her reign. I took a deep breath, savoring the quiet. It wasn't just a barbecue. It was a return to a world where community meant something, where connection wasn't dictated by bylaws or votes, where people remembered that being a neighbor meant more than proximity. And as I turned to leave, I felt lighter, buoyed by the knowledge that we had reclaimed our space. The shadows had lifted, and in its place, a new dawn promised warmth and togetherness.